In March 2020, one man began memorializing people who died from COVID on the Twitter account, Faces of COVID is what he called it. His name is Alex Goldstein, and he's paid tribute to thousands of people. Every day, he highlights 5 or 6 stories in a conversation with our lead national correspondent, David Bagno. He explained why these tributes are so very important to family members who have lost loved ones and are so meaningful to him as well. David, good morning. Looking forward to the story.
Good morning, my friend. You know, one of the remarkable things about Alex Goldstein is that he knows a little bit about thousands of people's lives. He's been memorializing COVID victims online nearly every day for more than 2 years. In fact, he said, David, the only time I took a break was when my dad died of prostate cancer. Other than that, he's done it every single day.
Alex Goldstein has waited nearly a year and a half.
Oh my God.
To meet Karen Nassimbini.
In the flesh. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. Better now for seeing you in the flesh.
You know,
It's been too long in the making.
I've never met anybody from Faces of COVID.
Really?
It's always just been from behind the screen. And so you're the first person I've actually met whose loved one was on the platform.
You're kidding, my God.
I know.
How lucky, I feel honored.
Karen's late husband, Stephen Richard, a kind, funny, gentle soul whose heart and hands were always open to helping others, was memorialized on the Faces of COVID Twitter account, which was created by Goldstein as a way to personalize the pandemic's toll.
No one else has put a face to these victims the way you have. Otherwise, they're just a number. You've brought humanity to this god-awful pandemic.
Can you tell me a little more about Stephen?
He was one in a million. We had a mad love affair, you know, for the 30 years that we were together. He was salt of the earth. He was a kayaker. He was a photographer. And he was the type that could be really invisible. So he always got the most poignant shots.
How'd you meet?
We met through a mutual friend. And I looked at him and I thought, oh my God, he's the boy next door. This is the kind of normal guy I should like.
Goldstein has featured more than 7,000 stories on Faces of COVID.
I try to wake up each morning, look at the submissions that have come in from family members, do a bit of my own research. I've done it almost every single day since March 28th, 2020. It has become more of a required ritual in my life than I think I could have ever anticipated.
In many posts, it is the picture which gives him pause.
All that Faces of COVID tries to do is get folks to stop just for a minute and bear witness and look at their faces and say their names and create just a little space for them. I love this one, this quote that the family gave. He was never one for religiosity, but he wanted you to know that if you find him in heaven, he will gladly accept a good beer and a juicy steak. Brazilian, please, American food is terrible. I mean, this is really vulnerable stuff. You are opening up on the most famously toxic platform in social media. You are putting your loved one out there with a couple lines about who they were, and then you're holding your breath to see what the world does with it. And the things that people share, it just always blows me away.
This is like a digital cemetery. You just put some of the quotes that I wish headstones had on them.
Right, right. It's a good way to put it.
Roughly 5,000 people saw the face of Linda Benson of Oklahoma City.
This was one where the photo hit me, just this kind of relaxed smile. You talk about what would you want on your tombstone as a parent. My brother and I were raised and taught by a wise lady, and we are forever grateful for her love. She was a sweet, sensitive, and encouraging person. I mean, you know, what else could you want as your legacy? This one was particularly powerful because—
Who is this?
So this is Dr. Chandra, 57, of Ohio. He was a cardiologist. And I had found his story through a news article, and his son reached out and saw it on Faces of COVID and said, can I add some words?
What were the words his son wanted to add?
He said, Dr. Chandra was a fierce advocate for his patients and for the health of his community. He spent his life educating others on preventative medicine. Caretaking to him was not a profession, but a calling. He approached everyone as equals with kindness and love. He is remembered fondly by his community, one that stretches 3 continents.
The 38-year-old Goldstein, who spent his late 20s as a press secretary for a former Massachusetts governor, sees the Faces of COVID Twitter account as a first draft of history.
This history is unfolding right now as we speak.
You feel protective about it?
Oh, yeah. I feel a responsibility to make sure that these people are treated with dignity and respect.
I heard someone say over the course of the pandemic, in speaking about someone who died of COVID, may their memory be a blessing. You are preserving memories.
I'm trying. It is too easy in this pandemic, if it hasn't happened to you, to look the other way. And we need to be uncomfortable and vulnerable enough to sit with it and to look at it and to say the names and look at the pictures. I know how hard it is. I feel it every morning. But the alternative, it's not acceptable.
What has been the impact of this Twitter account?
You know, what I hope the impact of Faces of COVID has been is to restore some semblance of empathy into how we see each other. Anyone can come here and say goodbye and watch a bunch of strangers participate in that with them. And I think there's meaning in that. I hope there's meaning in that.
All those faces and so many more. You know, one story we didn't highlight was this. There was a woman who reached out to Alex saying that she was thinking about her dad hysterically, as she termed it, one night. And so she just Googled his name just to see what she might find. And sure enough, up popped her dad. The daughter told Alex, seeing that tweet with his name and his face made me feel like there was someone out there that would help me feel like my dad is not just a number. You honored our pain, she said.
Yes.
That's the power of this,
David,
Gayle.
Yes, you did that, and so did he. I like, may their memory be a blessing. You know what's interesting to me, when you lose someone you love, most people think, well, I won't bring it up because it's uncomfortable. But people actually want to talk about their loved ones. They want to share that with you and why they meant so much. That's why I love what he's doing, and I love that you brought this story to us, David Bagno.
Thank you. And remember, Gayle, there were times in the pandemic where a tweet was sometimes the only way that someone could actually have the public celebrate their loved one, because you couldn't hold a funeral. Remember
Exactly
that.
right. I do remember, and you can't turn away. Thank you, David Bagno. We'll be right back.